I'm Ethan, 30. And 3 weeks ago I graduated from Harvard Law. Top of my class, speech giver, the works. I should have been untouchable, standing there in my cap and gown, diploma in hand. Instead, I'm staring at 10 empty VIP seats I reserved for my family, plush chairs with their names in silver calligraphy. Not one showed up, not my dad, not my stepmom, Karen, not my brother, Jake, not even Uncle Mike, who swore he'd be there. Turns out his "I wouldn't miss it" meant a Vegas casino binge. Growing up, my family didn't do smart. Straight A's? You were a show-off. My dad would smirk, "Nobody likes a brainiac, Ethan," when I aced a test. Karen would snap, "What, you think you're above us?" if I mentioned law school dreams. Jake, my brother, called it snooty suit stuff. Dad, a mechanic who owned every room with his booming voice, said, "Real men fix cars, not chase degrees. Law was for soft types who couldn't hack the real world." I didn't care. I was relentless, studied like my future was on fire. When I got a full ride to Harvard, I didn't expect confetti, but I hoped for a good job. Nope. Dad asked why I didn't just be a court clerk. Less hassle, same office. Karen said I'd crash and burn. Begging for shifts at a diner. I kept inviting them to milestones, undergrad, mock trials, internships, always the same. Flights cost too much, or we're busy, or Boston's not our vibe. I stopped begging. Sent updates to our group chat, got silence or Jake's occasional "nice." This graduation was different. 7 years of grind. Sleepless nights, skipped weddings, living on ramen because rent was brutal. When I landed a job at a top Manhattan firm and a slot to speak at commencement, I went big. Dropped $15,000 from my savings, hustle money from barista gigs and tutoring, to fly them out. First-class tickets for Dad, Karen, Jake, Uncle Mike. Booked a swanky Airbnb with river views. Reserved a steakhouse for a private dinner, their names on custom menus. Had programs printed, listing them as honored guests of Ethan James J.D. I imagined Dad's eyes shining, maybe saying proud for once. Night before the ceremony, I called to check their flights. No answer. Texted the group. Nothing. I was tweaking my speech when my phone lit up. Karen's text, "Ethan, we're skipping it. Your lawyer thing sounds dull. Vegas is more fun." Then Uncle Mike, "Can't do speeches, kid. Slots are calling." No sorry, no shame, just blunt. I stared at my screen, the words blurring. Didn't cry, didn't rage. Something in me just snapped quietly. Next morning I gave my speech, smiled for claps, but my eyes kept hitting those empty seats. 10 chairs, name cards flapping. After, I hugged classmates, thanked mentors, then went to that empty Airbnb. Alone, the betrayal hit hard. $15,000 to be ghosted by my own blood. They picked slot machines over my biggest day. I'd serve them my triumph, and they'd spit on it. I ignored their texts. When Karen left a chirpy voicemail, "Hope it was fun, send pics," I didn't bite. Instead, I made 2 moves. First, I got an extra diploma printed, framed it in dark wood, and mailed it to Dad with a photo of those 10 empty chairs under a sign. Reserved for the family of Ethan James, J.D. Second, I did something they'd never expect. More on that soon. Hours after the package landed, my phone blew up. "Dad, this is childish, Ethan." Karen, "You're acting like a jerk." Dad's voicemail made me pause, voice shaky. "I didn't know it'd hit you like this. Thought we were joking. Call me." I stopped at, "We didn't think it mattered." That clueless line said it all. They didn't get it, so I didn't call. I sat with that photo of the empty chairs, their names like a cruel punchline. Then, I opened my laptop, logged into my bank. See, I could afford those tickets because of a $70,000 inheritance from my grandpa. He died my first year at Harvard, left it in a joint account from when I was 15. He'd said, "Use it for something real, Ethan." I'd been cautious, some for rent, some for exam fees. Saved the rest for a legal aid project for struggling families. What my family didn't know, Grandpa meant to split it 3 ways, me, Dad, Uncle Mike. But after they mocked me at a family cookout, he rewrote his will. "You'll make it count," he told me. "They'll waste it." Here's the twist. Dad thought he still had access to the account. He'd been boasting about buying a new truck with our cash. Jake spilled that Dad and Karen had a dealership visit planned during my graduation week. That truck never rolled. Why? Post-graduation, I moved every cent to a new account. My name only. Closed the old one tight. Then donated $12,000 to the legal aid clinic with my name and a cap and gown photo. If my family wouldn't cheer, I'd lift someone else up. The calls turned nasty. Dad yelled, "That was family money." I shot back, "You chose Vegas over family. I chose better." Click. Uncle Mike's voicemail. "You broke your dad. We didn't think you'd do this." Always, we didn't think. They didn't think about me standing alone. Didn't think about my years of hustle. Didn't think about the kid craving "we're proud." I spent $15,000 to see their true colors. Best investment I ever made. The fallout hit like a storm. My phone kept buzzing. Angry texts, voicemails dripping with venom. Karen called me selfish, said I'd stabbed the family in the back. Uncle Mike sent a novel-length message about how I'd ruined everything over a silly graduation. My dad's calls were the worst. His voice swung between rage and pleading. "Ethan, that money was for us. You can't just cut us out." I didn't respond. I'd said my piece when I hung up on him. Then came the guilt trips. Jake, who'd been mostly silent, texted, "Dad's a mess. Can't believe you do this over some empty seats." That one stung, not because I felt bad, but because even Jake, the one I thought might get it, didn't. They all acted like I'd burned down their house, not protected what was mine. I muted the group chat and tossed my phone on the couch. A week later, I was back in my tiny Cambridge apartment, packing for my move to New York. The Manhattan firm was waiting, and I was ready to dive into corporate law. Long hours, big cases, the kind of work that'd make my name. But as I taped up boxes, I kept seeing those empty chairs in my head. It wasn't just the $15,000 or the inheritance. It was the years of me trying to prove I was worth their time, only to get laughed off. That's when I made my next move. See, the inheritance wasn't the only thing Grandpa left me. He'd also given me a small storage unit in his hometown, packed with his old stuff, tools, books, some furniture. I'd never bothered to check it, figured it was junk. But my cousin Lila, the only family member who hadn't iced me out, mentioned Dad had been sniffing around it. "He thinks there's cash or valuables in there," she texted. "Says it's his by right." That lit a fire in me. I drove 6 hours to the storage place, a dusty lot in upstate New York. The unit was a time capsule. Grandpa's woodworking tools, a creaky desk, boxes of yellowed letters. No cash, no gold bars, just memories of a man who believed in me. But in the back, under a tarp, I found something Dad would have killed for. A pristine 1968 Mustang, Grandpa's pride and joy. He'd restored it himself, kept it hidden. There was a note taped to the wheel. "Ethan, this is yours. Drive it proud. Don't let them take it." My throat tightened. Grandpa knew Dad would try to claim it. I didn't tell anyone. Got the car towed to a friend's garage in Boston, safe from prying eyes. Then I called a lawyer, not one from my firm, but a grizzled estate guy I'd met during a clerkship. We locked down the inheritance account, the storage unit, everything. If Dad or Uncle Mike came sniffing, they'd hit a legal wall. I wasn't playing nice anymore. Back home, the family drama escalated. Lila sent screenshots of a family Facebook group I'd been kicked out of. Karen posted a sob story. "Ethan turned his back on us after we couldn't make his little ceremony. Now he's stolen our future." Comments piled up. Cousins I hadn't seen in years calling me greedy, heartless. Uncle Mike chimed in, "He's no family of ours." I laughed bitterly. They didn't care when they ditched me, but now I was the villain for drawing a line. Then Dad showed up. No warning, just a knock at my apartment door at 9 p.m. I opened it, and there he was, grayer than I remembered, eyes bloodshot, smelling faintly of whiskey. Karen stood behind him, arms crossed, glaring like I'd robbed a bank. My stomach twisted, but I held my ground. "What do you want?" I asked, voice flat. Dad stepped forward. "Ethan, we need to talk. Family doesn't do this. Family doesn't ghost their own kid for slot machines," I shot back. Karen's face twisted. "You're so dramatic. It was one day." "One day?" I laughed sharp. "It was every day. Every time I tried to share something good, you mocked it. Now you're here because I cut you off from Grandpa's money. Dad's voice cracked. That was my dad's money. You had no right. He gave it to me, I said, stepping closer. Because he saw you'd rather belittle me than show up. And you proved him right in Vegas. Karen opened her mouth, but I cut her off. You flew 3,000 miles for a truck you thought was yours. Couldn't fly 500 for my graduation. We're done. I closed the door. Didn't slam it, just shut it firm. Their footsteps faded, and I stood there, heart pounding. I didn't feel triumph, just a heavy quiet. I'd spent years chasing their approval. Now I was free, but freedom felt like a bruise. The weeks after Dad's visit were a blur. I moved to New York, started at the firm. 80-hour weeks, depositions, power suits. The city's pulse kept me sharp, but those empty chairs still haunted me. Not just the betrayal, but the why. Why? Was I never enough? I buried the question in work, but it clawed back at night. When the Manhattan skyline couldn't drown out the silence, my family didn't stop. The calls slowed, but the guilt trips morphed. Karen sent a long email. Ethan, you're tearing us apart. We're not perfect, but we're your blood. Uncle Mike mailed a handwritten note. Your grandpa would be ashamed of you. Jake, my brother, went quiet, but Lila forwarded his texts from family chats. Ethan's acting like he's too good for us now. They painted me as the bad guy, the greedy lawyer who'd stolen their legacy. I didn't reply. What was there to say? They'd chosen Vegas over me. I'd chosen myself over them. Then came the curveball. Lila called one night, voice low. Ethan, you need to know something. Dad and Karen are planning to sue you. My heart sank. Sue me? For what? She hesitated. The inheritance. They're saying you manipulated Grandpa into changing his will. They've got a lawyer, a shady one. They're also claiming the Mustang's theirs. I gripped the phone, anger flaring. They hadn't just ditched me. Now they wanted to drag me through court to claw back what Grandpa entrusted to me. I didn't. Panic. I called my estate lawyer Tom the next morning. He laughed when I told him. They've got no case, Ethan. Your grandpa's will is ironclad. Witnessed, notarized, revised a year before he passed. They're bluffing. Still, I wasn't. Taking chances. We pulled records, emails, even a letter Grandpa wrote me during my first year at Harvard. Ethan, you're the only one with a head on your shoulders. Don't let them guilt you. Tom grinned. This'll bury them if they try. But the lawsuit threat lit a new fire. I wasn't just protecting the money or the car. I was protecting Grandpa's faith in me. So I doubled down on my other plan, the legal aid project. I'd been volunteering at a Brooklyn clinic, helping low-income families with evictions, custody battles, debt. The $12,000 I'd donated after graduation had funded a new computer system, but I wanted more. I started funneling another $10,000 from the inheritance into it, sketching plans for a full-time pro bono office. I named it the Henry James Legal Fund, after Grandpa. It felt right, his money building something real, not fueling Dad's truck dreams. Then the family escalated. Karen posted a public Facebook rant. Our son turned his back on us, stole his grandpa's money and thinks he's a big-shot lawyer. Blood don't mean nothing to him. It got 200 likes. Mostly from relatives I hadn't seen in a decade. Cousins shared it, adding their own jabs. Ethan's always been selfish. Thinks he's better than us. I didn't read past the first few. Lila sent me a heads up. They're rallying the family against you. Be careful. Careful wasn't enough. 2 weeks later, I got served papers at my office. A junior associate handed me the envelope, eyebrows raised. Family. Drama? I forced a smile. Something like that. The lawsuit was real. Dad, Karen, and Uncle Mike suing for undue influence over Grandpa's will and rightful ownership of the inheritance and Mustang. Their lawyer was some strip mall hack, but the audacity hit hard. They weren't just after money. They wanted to humiliate me, drag my name through the mud. I called Tom. He wasn't laughing anymore. This is a nuisance suit, Ethan, but it's messy. They're betting you'll settle to avoid the hassle. I clenched my jaw. I'm not giving them a dime. Tom nodded. Then we fight. Hard. We filed a counter-motion to dismiss, attaching Grandpa's letter and proof of the will's legitimacy. I also had Lila testify. She'd overheard Dad bragging about teaching Ethan a lesson at a family barbecue. The case was shaky, but it meant court dates, legal fees, and weeks of stress. Then came the real gut punch. I was at the clinic helping a single mom fight an eviction when my phone buzzed. It was Jake. I almost ignored it, but something made me pick up. His voice was shaky. "Ethan, I'm sorry. I didn't know they'd go this far." I froze. "What do you mean?" He sighed. "The lawsuit? It's not just about the money. Dad found out about the Mustang. He's obsessed, says it's his birthright. Karen's pushing him, saying you owe them for raising you." I told them it's wrong, but they won't listen. I leaned against the clinic wall, head spinning. "Why are you telling me this now?" Jake paused. "Because I was at your graduation. I didn't tell anyone. I flew in on my own. Watched from the back. You killed that speech, man. I should have said something then." My chest tightened. Jake had been there. "Why didn't you?" I asked. He laughed, bitter. "Didn't think you'd want me there after everything. But I'm done with their crap. I'm on your side." I didn't know what to say. Jake, the one I'd written off, had shown up when no one else did. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was something. "Thanks," I said finally. "Keep me posted." He hung up and I stood there, the clinic's hum fading. For the first time I felt a crack in the wall I'd built. Not hope, just a flicker of something human. But the fight was far from over, and Dad's next move would make Vegas look like a warm-up. The lawsuit dragged like a bad fever. Court filings, depositions, emails from Tom piling up. Every step felt like wading through mud. Dad, Karen, and Uncle Mike weren't backing down, throwing every cheap shot they could. Their lawyer filed a motion claiming I'd coerced Grandpa into changing his will, painting me as a scheming law student who'd preyed on a dying man. It was laughable, but the accusations stung. I'd loved Grandpa. He was the one who'd slipped me $20 for textbooks, who'd call to hear about my exams when no one else cared. Now they were twisting that into something ugly. Tom was a bulldog. He dug up Grandpa's medical records, proving he was sharp as a tack when he rewrote the will. We had affidavits from his lawyer and a neighbor who'd witnessed it. Lila's testimony was gold. She recounted Dad bragging about squeezing Ethan for cash at a family cookout. Still, the case wasn't dismissed outright. The judge wanted a hearing, which meant more time, more money, more stress. I was a first-year associate, drowning in billable hours, and now this. At night, I'd stare at the ceiling, wondering if I'd made a mistake by not settling. Jake became my unexpected lifeline. After his call, he started texting me updates. "Dad's telling everyone you're a thief," he'd write, or, "Karen's got the family convinced you're dodging them," out of spite. He even sent a photo from the family Facebook group, a blurry shot of Dad holding the diploma I'd mailed, captioned, "Ethan thinks this makes him better than us." The comments were brutal. "Ungrateful kid. He'll crash and burn." I didn't flinch. I'd seen their playbook. But Jake's texts weren't just intel. They were proof he was breaking ranks. "I'm done with their lies," he said one night over the phone. "You didn't deserve what they did." I didn't trust him fully, but I needed an ally. Meanwhile, I poured myself into the Henry James Legal Fund. The Brooklyn Clinic was growing. New desks, a part-time paralegal, cases stacking up. We helped a grandmother keep her apartment. Got a dad's wages back from a shady employer. Every win felt like a middle finger to my family's dismissal. I used another $15,000 from the inheritance to fund a mobile legal van hitting underserved neighborhoods. I'd drive it myself some. Weekends, paperwork in the back, offering free consults. People called me the lawyer who cares. It was the first time I felt proud without looking over my shoulder for approval. Then Dad upped the ante. Jake tipped me off. "They're coming to New York. Dad and Karen booked a hotel near your firm. They're planning to confront you." My stomach churned. Confront me? For what? Another screaming match about the Mustang? I told Tom, who sighed. "They're trying to rattle you before the hearing. Don't engage." Easier said than done. 2 days later, I was leaving the office at 10 p.m., briefcase heavy, when I saw them, Dad and Karen, standing across the street, lit by a street lamp. Dad's face was hard, Karen's arms crossed, both staring like I was prey. I froze, heart hammering. "Ethan!" Dad barked, crossing the street. I didn't run, didn't want to give them the satisfaction. "What do you want?" I called, voice steady. He stopped a few feet away, Karen trailing. "You think you can hide behind your fancy job?" he spat. "That money's mine. The car's mine. You're a thief." Karen jumped in. "We raised you and this is how you repay us? I laughed, cold. Raised me? You mocked me, ditched me, and now you're suing me because I won't bankroll your life. Dad's eyes narrowed. You're gonna regret this. We're not leaving till we get what's ours. I stepped closer, voice low. You left me standing alone at the biggest moment of my life. You don't get to claim anything now. Go back to Vegas. I turned and walked away, their shouts fading behind me. My hands shook as I got to my apartment, but I didn't look back. Tom was right. They were desperate, grasping at straws. The hearing was a week away, and I was ready to bury them. But the night before, Jake called, voice urgent. Ethan, they found the Mustang. My blood ran cold. What? How? He hesitated. I messed up. I told Lila where you stashed it, thinking she was cool. She told Dad. They're headed to the garage now. I hung up, grabbed my keys, and called my friend, who owned the garage. Lock it down, I told him. No one gets in. By the time I got there, Dad and Uncle Mike were arguing with the security guard, Karen filming on her phone like it was a reality show. I stepped out of my car, fury boiling. Get away from my property, I said, voice cutting through the night. Dad spun around. This is my dad's car. I held up my phone, showing Grandpa's note. Ethan, this is yours? He gave it to me, I said. Not you. Walk away or I call the cops. Uncle Mike lunged forward, but the guard stepped in. They backed off, cursing, Karen still filming. I didn't sleep that night. The Mustang was safe, but the war was far from won. The courtroom felt like a pressure cooker. I sat next to Tom, my suit crisp, palms sweaty, as Dad, Karen, and Uncle Mike glared from across the aisle. Their lawyer, a greasy guy in a cheap tie, shuffled papers, trying to look confident. The judge, a no-nonsense woman with sharp eyes, called the hearing to order. My family's case was flimsy, claiming I'd manipulated Grandpa into cutting them out of his will. Tom had stacked our defense. Grandpa's letter, medical records, Lila's testimony, the notarized will. Still, seeing Dad's face, twisted with resentment, made my chest tight. This wasn't just about money. It was personal. Their lawyer went first, spinning a sob story about how I'd schemed to isolate Grandpa, exploiting his trust to steal the inheritance and Mustang. He waved a photo of Dad with Grandpa, claiming familial bonds entitled them to the estate. It was theater, but Karen's fake sniffles sold it to the gallery. Tom didn't flinch. He presented Grandpa's letter. Ethan's the only one I trust, and Lila's affidavit about Dad's plan to squeeze me. The medical records shut down their senile grandpa angle. The judge's pen moved fast, her face unreadable. When I took the stand, I didn't look at Dad. I told the truth. Grandpa changed the will after years of watching them belittle my dreams. I described the $15,000 I spent to fly them to my graduation, the empty chairs, their Vegas texts. My voice stayed steady, but my hands gripped the stand. Their lawyer tried to trip me up, asking why I cut off my family. I looked at the judge. They cut me off when they mocked my life's work. I protected what Grandpa gave me because he knew they'd waste it. The room went quiet. Even Karen stopped sniffling. The judge didn't drag it out. She dismissed the case in 20 minutes. No evidence of undue influence, she said. The will stands. The car and funds belong to Ethan James. Dad's face crumpled. Karen whispered furiously to Uncle Mike. I exhaled, relief washing over me. Tom clapped my shoulder. Told you we'd bury them. But as we left, Dad caught my eye, his stare heavy with something I couldn't read. Anger, shame, maybe both. I walked out without a word. Back at the Brooklyn clinic, I threw myself into the Henry James Legal Fund. The mobile van was a hit. Families lined up for help, with leases, debts, custody. I hired another lawyer, a scrappy recent grad, and we expanded to evenings. The $15,000 I'd funneled in bought new laptops and a lease on a small office. Every case felt like proof I didn't need my family's approval. But Jake's call from my graduation lingered. He'd been there, unseen, cheering quietly. I texted him. Thanks for having my back. He replied, Always, man. Let's grab a beer sometime. I smiled. Maybe one bridge wasn't burned. Then came the final twist. A month post-hearing, I got a package. No return address. Inside was a faded photo of me and Dad, me maybe 10, him teaching me to ride a bike. A note was taped to it in his handwriting. "Ethan, I messed up. I didn't know how to be proud of you. I'm sorry. Keep the car. It's yours." My throat caught. No mention of the money, no excuses, just regret. I sat on my couch, staring at the photo. The kid in it, desperate for a dad who'd show up. I didn't cry, but I felt the weight of 20 years pressing down. I didn't call him. Didn't write back. Instead, I drove the Mustang out of the garage for the first time, top down, city lights blurring past. Grandpa's note was still on the dash. "Drive it proud." I did, weaving through Brooklyn, the engine's roar drowning out the noise in my head. At the clinic, I hung the photo. Not Dad's, but one of me and the van, families smiling behind. Me. That was my family now, the one I'd built from scratch. Dad's note was a crack in the door, but I wasn't ready to open it. Maybe someday. For now, I had cases to win, a clinic to grow, and a car to drive. I'd spent $15,000 to learn who my family was. The lawsuit taught me who I was. And that was enough. 2 years flew by, and I was a different man. The Manhattan firm had me on track for partner. Big cases, bigger wins. The Henry James Legal Fund was my heart, though. The Brooklyn clinic had doubled in size, 3 lawyers, a full-time staff, a second van hitting the streets. We saved families from evictions, won back wages, fought for kids in court. Every handshake, every tearful "thank you" was a brick in the life I'd built without my family's shadow. The Mustang stayed parked, a quiet reminder of Grandpa's trust, but I drove it on tough days, letting the engine roar away doubts. Dad's note, the one with the bike photo, sat in a drawer. I hadn't responded. Jake and I met for that beer, then another. He was trying to break free, working construction, saving for a place away from Dad and Karen's drama. "You did what I couldn't," he said once, eyes on his glass. "Stood up to them." I nodded, but didn't push. He was family, maybe the only one left, but trust was a slow rebuild. The family noise faded. Karen's Facebook rants dried up. Uncle Mike moved to Florida, chasing some get-rich scheme. Lila kept me posted. Dad was quieter, drinking less, working, steady. "He talks about you sometimes," she texted. "Says he screwed up." I didn't bite. His apology was a snapshot, not a promise. I'd learned not to chase ghosts. Then came the email, late March. Subject, Family BBQ, Grandma's 80th. It was from Lila, CCing half the family. A backyard bash in upstate New York, potluck style, to celebrate Grandma's milestone. At the bottom, a line. "Ethan, we'd love to see you. Dad says he hopes you'll come." I stared at it, coffee going cold. Grandma was the last tie, kind but distant, caught in the family's web. I almost deleted it, but something stopped. Me. Closure? Curiosity? I wasn't sure. A week later, a letter arrived at the clinic. Dad's handwriting shaky. "Ethan, I don't deserve your time, but I'm asking. Come to the BBQ, not to fight, not to beg, just to see you. I'm trying to be better. Please." He'd underlined "please" twice. I read it 3 times, then slid it next to the bike photo. The old Ethan would have hoped for a miracle. The new one wasn't so naive. I went. Not for Dad, but for me, to prove I could face them without breaking. The BBQ was at a community center, balloons bobbing, kids shrieking, a boombox blaring. Classic rock. I walked in, jeans and a button-up, no suit, no armor. Heads turned, whispers rippled. "That's Ethan?" I nodded, kept moving, found Grandma. She hugged me tight, eyes wet. "You're doing good, kid." I smiled. That was enough. Then I saw Dad. He was thinner, grayer, standing by the grill, apron stained. "No Karen, she'd left him," Lila said, chasing a new guy. Dad's eyes locked on mine, hesitant, like he expected me to bolt. "Ethan," he said, voice soft. I nodded. "Hey." He stepped closer. "You came?" "Yeah," I said, hands in pockets. "For Grandma." His face fell, but he nodded. "Fair." Silence hung heavy. I waited for the apology, the big speech. Instead, he handed me a beer, voice low. "I was wrong. About everything. I'm proud of you." The words hit like a shockwave. I didn't trust them, but they landed. I didn't hug him. Didn't forgive. "Thanks," I said, and walked away. I mingled, laughed with cousins, ignored the side eyes from Uncle Mike's. Cleek. Jake found me, grinning, and we toasted to surviving. I left early, no goodbyes. As I drove the Mustang home, city lights flashing, I felt it. Peace, hard won, mine. A month later, I got a call. Lila, sobbing. Dad's gone, heart attack, last night. I froze. The clinic's hum fading. He was talking about you, she said. Said he wished he'd shown up for you. I didn't cry, didn't rage. I just sat, the bike photo. In my hand, his note beside it. He'd tried, too late. I didn't go to the funeral. Instead, I took the Mustang to Brooklyn, parked outside the clinic. Hung a new sign. Henry James Legal Fund. In memory of David James. Dad's name, not mine. Not forgiveness, but acknowledgement. Then I drove, top down, past the skyline, the engine screaming. I'd spent $15,000 to lose a family. I'd gained a legacy. And as the road stretched on, I knew. I wasn't running anymore. I was free. And here it is. The finale of today's story. Did everything turn out as you imagined? Or did it end unexpectedly? I'd love to hear what you think. Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and let's dive into the discussion together. If this story kept you in suspense, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't signed up yet, what are you waiting for? This is your chance to join an incredible community where exciting new stories unfold every day. Click the subscribe button and turn on notifications to stay up to date. Thanks for your attention, and see you on your new adventures.